John Hindle was inducted into the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame in 2004. John, congratulations. Let's talk about baseball and how old you were when you realized that this sport was going to be a pretty big part of your life.
Well, family folklore has it that my grandfather snuck a baseball into my crib when I was a baby. And I don't think my mother was too impressed with this dirty old ball in the crib with her dear child, but maybe a little magic rubbed off because baseball's been a part of my life as long as I can remember.
Growing up, talk about the early years and realizing that, I can catch, I can throw, I can hit pretty decent, which led on to bigger and better things, obviously playing junior ball with the St. Boniface Legionnaires.
Well, I loved all sports when I was growing up, but baseball was the one sport that I clearly had success in. I don't know if it's hand-eye coordination or what. I wasn't a big, huge kid by any means, but I could hit a baseball. And so I obviously then enjoyed the game more and more. And I played all through my life in Winnipeg, and then played junior, as you said, in St. Boniface. And it just became a little more serious at that point in time, and I tried very much to excel. And in fact, we won a Manitoba championship in St. Boniface as juniors. And although I played on some pretty good teams in my life, we didn't win an awful lot of championships. So I did learn to appreciate every one of them.
Talk about the rivalries during that time frame when you played junior with St. B.
Well, there was some intense rivalries. We were young and excitable, and I remember the St. James rivalry we had with St. Boniface, and every single game took on an entirely new level of intensity, and somebody was sliding into second and was always a little more aggressively than with other teams. But all in all those guys now I look at, and they're just part of my comrades in the baseball world.
From junior to Red Boyne senior, talk about that next step in playing with the St. Boniface Native Sons.
Well, at senior level is when I became a much better baseball player. I think you hear this a lot, but it's strange in baseball, but at the age of 30, I was a much better hitter than when I was in my early 20s. And I don't know if you just learn more patience or learn to stay back on the ball. But I got a couple of years in playing in Grandview in the Manitoba Senior Baseball League, which with the American pitching they had, I think helped me develop a more intensity at the plate. And then I went back to Winnipeg, and the Red Boyne League started, and it was just an intense rivalries there too, with Carmen and Elmwood in particular. And every year it seemed that the three of us would battle it out, and it was great memories.
Major highlight from your playing days?
Well, I really appreciate the fact that I got to play in Grandview. I played for the Drouets, so I got to see baseball in rural Manitoba, which is so important. But the highlight has to be when I represented Manitoba in Nanaimo, British Columbia. And the day we were leaving, Air Canada went on strike. And we literally had to scramble to find a plane, and we hired a private DC-3, which flew through the mountains, not over the mountains. And we flew all day and all night long. They picked us up in Victoria. We arrived in Nanaimo 2 hours the next day before we were to play our first game. And what happened is the hometown crowd had been kept abreast of all of this, and we became the favorites. Even when we played British Columbia, we were the favorites. And I never played better baseball in my life, and ended up winning the top hitter of that tournament, and we won the gold medal. And that's a memory that I'll never forget.
You've also given so much back to the game at the administrative level with Bonnie Battelle Baseball Association, President of the Red Boyne Senior, VP of the Manitoba Baseball Association, and President of the Manitoba Junior Baseball League. Why was it so important to give back?
Because the game was so important to me. And I love all aspects of the game of baseball. And to have an opportunity to coach my children and teach them the fundamentals, and then to give back because there's a need for that, of course. It was just something I felt I needed to do. And then I was very frustrated as a senior player that you couldn't buy decent equipment in Manitoba. And that's how I started Home Run Sports. I brought in this diamond baseballs, which was clearly better than any baseball we'd ever seen here. You couldn't even buy a Rollins Heart of the High glove in those days. We had to go to Grand Forks to buy equipment. And I started that in my garage, and it evolved into a pretty thriving business. And all of that I consider part of giving back to the game of baseball.
The Northern Baseball League arrives in Winnipeg in 1994, and you're hired as the team's first general manager. Talk about the setup, first of all, of that inaugural season, and winning the whole thing.
Well, I dreamed of playing in professional baseball. I'd never really dreamed of being the general manager. But when I got that opportunity, it was just such a dream come true. I couldn't wait to get up in the morning and go to work. And we didn't have any manuals. We didn't have any job descriptions. We were just kind of playing this on the fly. But fortunately for me, no matter how intense it got, no matter how many hours I worked, the baseball game started.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't as much work as it might have been for somebody who didn't love the game as much. But that first season, it was just to go into work and I don't know what's going to happen. And whatever I planned, it didn't matter because the next phone call changed it anyways. And then for us to win, it was just like almost surreal. It was just, and in fact, if we'd won 2 or 3 years later, I might have appreciated it more because I was just so happy we were up and running.
But you're playing out of a football stadium for the first while.
We were, but we were playing. Yeah. And that's all I can say about Winnipeg Stadium. It was tough. It was tough to run our minor league baseball team out of that type of facility. But it was there, and it got us going. And we were able to set this all-time, what we called a world record, with over 20,000 people to attend a game, which simply didn't happen in minor league baseball. But of course, building of CanWest Global Park in 1999 was a little bit different and an awful lot more enjoyable to operate because what a gorgeous facility that is.
Talk about the events that led up to finally putting the spade in the ground, because we were at that press conference when we went to right around home plate, the spade was in, the pitches were taken, and construction began, and just finally getting to that point.
Well, yes, it was a special day because there was many times I thought, are we ever going to get to this point? I mean, talk is cheap, and of course, whenever you have a new idea, there's naysayers who want to say, well, this can't work, and it shouldn't be downtown, and whatever else happened. But we battled through that, and the day that we had all the dignitaries put that spade in the ground, I certainly will never forget, because it was the start of this something very special, and a lot of tremendous decisions were made to make that facility one that has withstood the test of time. And the fans, when they walked in, the look on those faces, you didn't need any more to realize this was the real thing, and it changed dramatically the Winnipeg Gold Eggs.
Let's go back to your induction and the feeling of being on stage and talking about the game of baseball, what it meant to you, your family, your teammates, coaches, and all involved.
Well, it was a true honor. In fact, at that point, I was the general manager of the Sioux Falls Canaries in South Dakota. And we were playing at home that night, and this is the only time I ever missed a game. I drove all day to come to this ceremony because it was a special thing. My game was honoring me in a way that I hardly could comprehend at the time. I just knew it was special. And my mom and dad were there. My family was there. Bev and my wife and my children. It was just a time where I could say thanks for all the support, all those years for allowing me to play the game I loved.
John, thanks a lot for this, and congratulations. John Hindle was inducted into the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame in 2004. I'm Clayton Drigger.